Hey there, Ultizeta here, and welcome back to more Let's Play Super Mario Galaxy 2. In the last episode... I have a crown there, but not here. I'm missing... Oh, I'm missing a star in Spindig. I completely forgot there was a second star in Spindig. Cool, let's go do that first then. Lol. Oops. I guess I was just too busy to move on. Too desiring to move on, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Points aside. Silver Star's down deep. Let's go. So, Silver Star's return again. What would be a good topic to talk about for this episode? I'm not sure. I guess something I can talk about. That's something that actually could work, potentially. A game that I think most people will be aware of lately is Sonic Mania. That's a game that a lot of people like. Can't blame them. It's a pretty freaking good game. Ow. Came out very recently. I was super excited for it. And I think most people are too. So that's all fine and dandy. Now, the thing about Sonic Mania is that one thing that's interesting that I was kind of concerned about with the game for a bit. I'm gonna try and make this as spoiler-free as possible, by the way. So, don't worry too much if you haven't played it. Although, this will also be out by the time the PC's version is out, so... that shouldn't be an issue, at least. Wow, I timed that horribly. Sonic Mania, as you probably already guessed from the fact that it's a 2D classic Sonic game made by fans, because they wanted a 2D classic Sonic game, and we hadn't had one in a long time. 2D Sonic Mania is filled to the brim with fan references and cool things if you are a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. Which, presumably, you are a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, the thing that I was kind of worried about with Sonic Mania for a while was I was concerned how necessarily the game would work depending on how much you already knew of Sonic and liked of Sonic. Now, I'm happy to report that the game is very enjoyable no matter what your history with Sonic is, I think. Most people seem to really significantly enjoy the game, and that's great. The thing that concerned me initially with Sonic Mania was just how much of it was going to be, like, getting in the way and being annoying. And while I don't think all of it is all that it's cracked up to be, especially stuff like Blue Spheres returning, which we already knew about from a trailer, so if that's a spoiler for you, I'm sorry that I spoiled something that the game that the creators themselves brought up in a trailer. But stuff like that returning doesn't have quite the same kind of impact, I feel, and it gets in the way of the game in some level, I feel, but not in a major way. And there are other things, like the fact that it still has lives, and I think we all know my argument for against them. For being against them, I mean. I don't like lives, especially in platformer games nowadays. It's just a dated concept, and it really, the only points of Sonic Mania where I wasn't enjoying myself were because I got a game over and had to redo content because of lives, or I was worried about game overing and having to redo content. So, yeah, I would say that's a pretty significant issue, and a lot of people are bringing it up because of Sonic Mania. It's interesting that a lot of people are bringing that up because of Sonic Mania, because it's been an issue in a lot of games so far. I guess it's just because Sonic Mania is such a widespread, popular game that also is pretty difficult in its own right, that it's like a lot more people are noticing it in Sonic Mania, as opposed to something like this that still has lives, but no one really cares because it's freaking easy peasy Mario, and getting a game over literally means nothing, practically. But even then, it's still kind of a weird issue. So I'm hoping Sonic Forces doesn't have it. But yeah, like, the live system would probably be my biggest complaint with Mania, and the reason why I wouldn't... The biggest reason why I wouldn't give it a perfect score. Although there are other reasons why I wouldn't give it a perfect score, because no game is perfect anyway. But, I mean, for a scoring system, you kind of have to expect that, and, like, give a little bit of a leeway of, like, what's really just kind of more nitpicky than anything else. And that's why 10 out of 10 ratings can still exist. Even if no game is perfect, you can still rate that because it's like near perfect, very good, people really seem to like it, and rating systems like that are really just kind of to get you to see, hey, what exactly would be good. So, yeah, so there are definitely points of Sonic Mania that are specifically only annoying because of a heavy nostalgic pandering, in a way. And while that definitely doesn't make it a bad or unenjoyable game, it's like, I definitely feel like there are a couple of points where I feel like the developers might have just been a tad bit nostalgia blind. So they were trying to make something that catered to nostalgia first, rather than a modern gaming mindset, such as having extra lives be a common factor, even though those are pointless in today's day and age and just serve to infuriate rather than anything. So I guess that's my real thing. The one thing I wanted to talk about is just like, there are certain things in Sonic Mania that are really cool if you know what they're referencing, and even if you don't, well, they're not really much of an issue, they're just another part of the game. The only thing that I can even think of that could also be an issue is this one boss that would also be kind of spoilery, so I'm not gonna mention it. I guess I could say where it is then, though, at least? Would that... I don't know if that would be too much of a spoiler, actually. Saying exactly where it is in the game, because then at least someone who hasn't played the game would be expecting it at that point. And that alone already is also kind of weird. Because even if you don't know what to expect, you're still going to be expecting something, and so it's like, okay, well, what? Well, I know something's gonna be up here, and so it's like, I probably shouldn't even say where it is. I mean, the fact that I've already said it's a boss is probably already gonna be bad enough. Anyways, I'm waiting for this last thing to go through the thing. How did that hit me? I disagree with that game. Anyways, this is Gobblegut. He's the worst boss in the entire game, and I hate him. I think he's honestly probably the worst boss in the entire series of Galaxy games. He's just annoying, and the camera's garbage, and whatever. The reason why I went for the last three first is because he moves faster after the first three hits. So I just figure it's easier to go after the last three rather than the first three. Because then you can do that and kill him easily rather than... So you deal with the easier, slower phase first, and then the fast phase is over like that. So that's my strategy with dealing with Gobblegut. I don't know if you guys have a different strategy, but it's whatever. Gobblegut still sucks, and that's never going to change. But if you know how to deal with him, I guess he's not the worst. I'm just never going to understand why he sounds like a freaking train. Anyways, Grand Star! Bow, ba-da-ba-dow. Bow, 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 ba-ba-bow. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-dow, bow, ba-da, bow, bow, bow. Ba-da-ba-dow. Okay. You know, I guess there's another topic I can discuss right now, because I kind of almost went into it before with the Sonic Mania Life thing. And that's about video game reviews. Because it seems like lately there has been a bit of a heated relationship with gamers and video game critics that I personally don't quite understand. Like, this all came about from this thing about, I guess, there was a, I don't know, what was his name? Slam Dunk or something? I don't know. I don't know who it was. I don't care who it was. It was the first time I ever even heard of him. I guess he's some sort of popular YouTuber because for a while on Twitter, everyone I followed was talking about this guy's video about how he was ranting about all the issues with the game industry and review sites like IGN and Game Informer and Polygon and whatever else exists. I don't know. I don't pay attention to a lot of game reviews simply because I just kind of, I don't care that much, personally. I mean, game reviews are cool and all, and for certain instances, like, you can kind of, might be able to get a certain awareness of how a game reacts. And I have actually talked about game reviews before. I remember having a discussion like this in my first Legend of Spyro Let's Play, where I was like, who cares about game reviews? Like, look at my favorite games, and they all have pretty weird reviews that I disagree with, and it's like, these are my favorite games, so it doesn't matter what the reviewers say, as long as I like it. And so that's just kind of that, I suppose. But I've adopted a little bit of a different thought process on that kind of thing now, I suppose. For me, I understand the need for game reviews now. They're not arbitrary, they're not pointless, they exist for a good reason. Because there are people who care about them, definitely. Game companies care about them, definitely. Getting a good critical response is important to a game company. Like, without that, then they are not gonna exactly know necessarily good ways that they can improve the game. Like, they have to listen to critics, because if they don't, they're not... And everybody, in their own way, is a critic. So, like, by listening to what people have to say, they can make improvements the next time they want to make a game. That's what it's all about. So, reviews can be important for that regard. But it seems like a lot of the issue that people have with modern game reviews has to do with the ideology behind it. Some people claim that people pay for good reviews. The companies will pay for a good review of something. Damn, I should have collected more coins then, I guess. Wait, can I get them out of the grass? I already got them out of the grass. Oh well. I guess I can't go to the Hungry Room yet. I forgot it was quite so many. Whatever. Doesn't matter, I'll just go to the normal route. Anyways. Game reviews are interesting to me, though, because it's like... a lot of people take them really personally. And I guess it's because... they really want their game that they like to be reviewed well, I suppose is the point. But I've never quite really understood that, because you would review it well, wouldn't you? Isn't that the point for you? Is that you would review it well? So, who cares what other people think? Now, yeah, there are other people who care about what other people think. And it can be very interesting to read why someone might disagree with you. Or agree with you on certain points, but not others. Stuff like that. So, in a couple regards like that, it can be fun and interesting. But not necessarily important. So, I don't quite get the anger that people have when it comes to game reviews. Even if they are, as you say, taking bribes to review things in certain ways from game companies or whatever. Or you just really freaking hate IGN. Or think that they're really stupid. I mean, there is that whole, like... IGN stands for ignorant, because of stuff like they made fun of Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire for having too much water, and so 7.8 out of 10 became a meme, and like, stuff like that. Like, that's the kind of stuff happens all the time. But I don't really quite get it. Like, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire has a lot of water in it, and if someone dislikes that, if someone dislikes the surfing, then they're going to dislike the game, or at least a large portion of it. So they criticize that, they have a valid reason for it, and it lowers the score for them. But then, because it's Pokemon, everyone's like, oh, they can't do anything wrong, so the fact that they only got a 7 out of 10 because of water is like, oh, look at this stupid reviewer. Let's all make fun of him and turn his criticism into a joke for the entire rest of eternity. And I mean, yeah, it's kind of a funny joke to be like 7.8 out of 10, too much water, but at the same time, it's literally just making fun of the fact that someone else had an opinion. So, what fun is that? Where's the fairness in that? Like, just because someone else has a different opinion doesn't mean it's invalid. And honestly, I think the idea that Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire have too much water is actually very valid. I played the game myself. I thought it kind of got a little tedious by the end, especially because of how you have to have a lot of HMs in Pokemon. At least in those Pokemon. And so, the too much water was actually a very valid complaint, because there's like 3 different water HMs that you need to even be able to traverse the entire region of the game. But that's been an issue with Pokemon for a while, and they seem to be getting rid of HMs thanks to Ride Pokemon existing in Generation 7, so that's cool. So they're finally learning from their mistakes. But it's stuff like that that's like, why make fun of that? Because Pokemon's popular and because that one reviewer disagreed with a large consensus, so it's like, why does that mean he's wrong? Just because a lot of people like it, like, hell, a critiquer's job isn't necessarily to be like, what do majority of people think? Someone whose job it is to criticize, what they're going to do is criticize it on their own merits, their own thoughts and opinions, and how they feel about that. So, in that regard, I just don't quite get it. It's like, if you like the game and want to review it 10 out of 10, then review it 10 out of 10. Give reasons why, but do it yourself if you really want to. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hell, things like Metacritic or whatever have places for everybody to just submit their own review. Anyone can review anything that they want to. All they have to do is just say what they think about it. Maybe any improvements that they can think of. And if you think that there are no improvements, well, then you're probably just deluding yourself, because literally anything can be improved if you try thinking hard enough. It's just a matter of, well, are you trying to think of things that you can improve, or do you just want to make it look like it's perfect? And I think that idea of games have to be perfect in order to like them is really kind of frustrating, because, like, I think what makes it more impressive to me is the sense of liking something enough to admit that it has faults, and to admit that you still like it regardless of those faults. I think that takes way more guts. And like, I'm not saying that you have to, like, I guess what I'm not saying is that you have to think, like, oh, I am purposefully going to point out every single little tiny flaw in this thing because I love it so much that I have to do that. Like, not everyone is even wired to think that way. Like, it has to be a conscious effort for a lot of people to be like, what would I improve from this game going to the next game? If they make a sequel or something like that. Or if just the company makes a new game. Or whatever. And so that's that. But for me, it's like, that's just how I naturally think, really, is like, I take the good and the bad. I do that at the end of every freaking Let's Play. It's like, what did I like, what did I not like? Every so often, and that's just kind of... That's my viewpoint on things. A lot of people have called me like, oh my god, it's kind of like a running gag between me and my friends. Against my will, personally, but like, they like to joke that, oh my god, Ulti's actually enjoying something, because I tend to be pretty critical of things, because that's just my nature. That's in my nature, is if I see something that I think could be improved, I talk about what can be improved. I don't think that's necessarily a problem, but it creates that idea of, like, suddenly you have to kind of... Oh, it's just one-ups. I don't care about one-ups. You kind of... There's a lot of black and white mentality, where it's like people think you can either like something or dislike something, but you can't like and dislike something. But, I don't know. It's just, for me, it's like... I am wired differently than other people. I will acknowledge that, however much it needs to be said. Not everyone even wants to think critically. And that's fine, but I think that if someone asks you what you would want to do differently, you should respond with actual thought put into it, rather than just being, I don't know and I don't care, because if nothing else, that doesn't necessarily help anything. It just makes things stagnant. Like, I don't know. That's kind of why I was like, oh, Mario Galaxy shouldn't be considered perfect, even though I was talking about it being perfect. It just kind of isn't perfect. Because, like, claiming that Mario Galaxy is perfect means that you can't necessarily easily... How am I not getting fucking... I'm supposed to get 70 coins. Right? Yeah. Where are the other coins that I need? That's twice now where I'm just... This time I even went out... Oh, right, up here. Okay, I forgot up here. Never mind. Okay, so... It doesn't help anybody if you just be like... Yeah, there's nothing wrong and I don't care. Because... I don't know. And it's like... It's weird that so many people online tend to have this mentality of, I don't want to think about anything possibly being wrong, and if there is a critique here, then I'm going to ignore it and make fun of it. Because even if you want to think, oh, this game is perfect and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, the idea that nobody can think that there's something wrong with it is just really dangerous and frustrating. Because it removes all discussion. Because, honestly, whenever I see someone with an opinion on a game, especially a dissenting one, something that doesn't normally stick with somebody else, like, if I saw that someone really did not like Bomberman 64, one of my, if not all my favorite game of all time, I wouldn't be mad, because number one, it's just a freaking video game, and who cares? But number two, I would be very interested to know why they didn't like it, more than anything else. Because maybe they see something differently that I haven't noticed in a while, because it's been a very long time since I've gone into the game without being aware of it. Like, I know the game from, like, the back of my hand, so I would know things about it that some people might not. So, like, what if a puzzle's too obtuse? What if they don't understand mechanic? Because it doesn't get explained well. Stuff like that. So it's like, stuff that I would not have realized about the game. Stuff that would give me a new perspective on it that would be interesting to know and be aware of. Even if I still love the game, it would be helpful to be able to admit, oh yeah, that's a valid point. And it makes discussion a lot more interesting, because it's like, it's not negating other people's opinions, it's accepting them. It's like, it's coming to an understanding. agree to disagree. You like this game, I don't like this game. Cool. And I guess that's kind of why I get kind of annoyed by certain other things, because, like, there are a lot of arguments out there that I just don't feel are constructed very well. And so it's like, there are arguments that I would love to hear a different kind of viewpoint on them, I guess. But they're never constructed in enough of a way that I can actively come to an understanding of be like, oh, so that's why you think this way. But anyways, I've rambled on enough. I don't think I even finished any of my actual tangents. I just kind of talked and talked and talked. But I think that's okay, because because I think I got enough of my points across. And conclusions are for wimps. So next time on Let's Play Mario Galaxy 2, we're gonna return to the Tongue Twister level and fight the chimp for the first time.